Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. And before I even get started, yes, I'm not home. I'm not in my usual spot, be it the couch or at my recording kitchen table. I'm actually down in the basement of my folks' house. I am currently dog sitting. So he's sleeping on the couch right now. And I decided to check out Barbarian on HBO Max. It was a movie that came out last year that I unfortunately passed on because I think I'd be able to get to watch it in time. And then this came along where I have time to watch it because the only time I get to watch HBO Max is when I'm here, and usually I'm with my son. And having watched this movie, this is not a movie you want to watch with children. So, because I had no idea what this movie was about going into it, kind of still don't going out of it. I do, I should say. That this movie got a lot of praise last year. Like people were even saying, like I went to watch Cody Leach's review of it, and he's like, before I even get started, you need to go in watching this knowing nothing. And so I went in knowing absolutely nothing. And I'm telling you right now, before even I get started, I'm telling you, if you have not seen Barbarian, watch it first. You do not want to know anything about this movie before watching it. And that was good enough for me. Only thing I knew about it was that Justin Long and Richard Brake were in this movie because I follow Richard Brake on Instagram and I've seen Justin Long. I think I follow him on Facebook or something. Twitter? One of those things. Yeah, maybe I follow him on Instagram as well. So I knew they were in it. That's all I knew. And Bill Skarsgård. I knew he was in it too. That popped up. Other than that, I knew nothing about this movie. So the movie starts with Tess, who has booked this Airbnb in what we later find out to be a derelict Detroit neighborhood, which kind of calls back to Don't Breathe if you think about it. Well, I want to apologize if you can hear me. The shower is very loud. Hold on. Okay, back. Apologize if you can hear the shower dripping. You really can't do anything about that. But anyway, so we start with our character Tess, our lead character, the actress. I don't remember her name, but I know I realized she played in the Krypton, the short-lived Krypton series, playing Lyta Zod. And I'm like, she looks familiar. I looked it up. She was in that, yeah. Which I watched part of the first season. Never got to watch the second season. Have both on DVD, but I haven't watched them yet. So she's going to stay at this Airbnb, and when she goes to, they have a special code you got to put in. You put the code in, and when she finally gets the code right, it's the furnace. It opens up, and there's nothing in it. She's also getting calls from a Marcus, and the only thing we get from this is later she said that she's had a bad, just gotten out of a bad relationship. That's all we get from that. The Marcus thing never comes up again. He never comes back into the thing. You think it might be like the boy, where the boyfriend shows up. No, he's never mentioned again after this. It's really weird. Anyway, so upon doing some stuff, the light comes on, and it revealed that Bill Skarsgård's character Keith is staying here. He also booked the Airbnb through another place. Turns out it's the same person because it's the same number that they got. So I guess, and so they decide to stay there. Like the starting of this, the beginning of this movie, I was very. This is what everyone was talking about. It's them talking. They make it out to seem. They make it seem like there's something weird going on with Bill Skarsgård's character with Keith. Like he might be creepy. He's even pointing out, "Oh, I made the tea. You didn't drink any tea, and I have this wine. It's not open. I'm opening in front of you because you think I'm trying to drug you. I'm not. I'm just trying to be nice." And And it seems like they're trying to mislead you into thinking there's something with him, but there is not. So she doesn't want to sleep. She needs like clean sheets, so he cleans the sheets for her. Washes right there, the sheets right then and there. And then she tries to book somewhere else, but they're all filled up because of a convention. Which, again, he's like, "Oh, I forgot about this. There's a convention." Almost trying to creep. Oh, hey, there's a convention. You're not gonna go anywhere. Stay here, that sort of thing. And so she ends up staying in the bedroom when he stays on the couch, like the dog is right now. And she wakes up in the middle of the night. She locked herself in the room, but she wakes up in the middle of the night. The door's unlocked, and he's a very loud sleeper. He screams in his sleep. My brother did the same thing when we were young. He'd just start screaming in his sleep. Hated sharing a room with him because they just start going, ah! You start screaming. Terrible. Just terrible. But yeah, he's not as loud as anything. And then she ends up waking him up, and he's, very frustrated. He's like, what are you doing? What? She's like, did you open my door? He goes, what? No, I was asleep. The whole sort of thing. Something led to believe that someone else opened the door. Sort of thing. But the next day, she goes to her interview, which Keith has a connection to, I guess. I don't know. The whole dialogue when they're talking just came off kind of weird. I didn't really listen to half of it. That's when she talks about her relationship, her failed relationship, and he talks about that he's connected to this in some way, shape, or form. I'm not exactly sure how. But she goes to her interview, and the person that's there is like, oh, you're staying there in that neighborhood? Because when she goes to leave this, she realizes it's really very derelict and run down, and it's all, gone to shit. And, so she returns back, and she has an encounter with a homeless person who warns her not to stay there, but she goes back in, and she hears weird noises, and she finds a tunnel in the basement, which she uses a mirror. Was the mirror just in the way, or is she using it for something? Like, a couple of times she looks back at the mirror, like, so she could see there's something behind her, maybe? I don't know. But she finds a room at the end of the tunnel with a bed, a video camera, and a bucket. Like a bucket. Bigger than this, but and it didn't have little dinosaurs on it. Yeah, like this, like a bucket, but like this. But like a taller bucket. Cooper knows what I'm talking about. It's like the bucket I have his toys in upstairs. Right, Coco? He's asleep. Anyway, that's the dog's name, by the way. So when Keith comes back, she tells him about this. He goes down to inspect. She's like, no, we can get out of here. We gotta call the cops. He goes, no, I want to see this for myself. First mistake. Goes down by himself. She should have went with them. The more together, the more, easier it could be to fight whatever and down there. But she hears strange noises and goes down and finds him hurt and attacked. There's another door which he had gone down, and he's been attacked. And then this ugly naked lady creature shows up and smashes his head against the wall. And this is when I went, oh, were you killing off Bill Skarsgård, really? I love Bill Skarsgård. I think he would be great. And I think they should make a Hellraiser, direct Hellraiser. They're doing all these requels, right? They should make a direct sequel to Hellraiser Bloodline, which is a sequel to the 1996 storyline. You can't go off the future thing, but have Bill Skarsgård play the kid. Bill Skarsgård play the kid. Play Jack Merchant is now an adult. They're like 3 years. He's 3 years younger than the actor who played him. It doesn't matter. I think he would be great. He's my pick if they ever do that. But continue that story. I always wanted a direct sequel to Bloodline, but they just give us stupid sequels that are not even sequels. Inferno sucks. Anyway, so now she's, Bill Skarsgård's dead, Keith is dead, and so she's on her own now, and she gets attacked, and then we cut. Our first cutaway to a new character, AJ, played by Justin Long, who is this TV producer who is given the news that he's been accused of sexually assaulting one of the stars of the show he's producing. And so he's being kicked off the show, and they just, on one hand, this goes to show you how relentless stuff like this goes. Like, if you are accused, they're not even going to take a second glance at this. They're not even going to try to see if you're innocent. They're not going to try to, go for proof. They're just like, okay, you've been accused. You're out. You're done. It's over. And it's, And before those of you who've watched this, with a hey, don't defend him, I'll get to it. But when I was watching it, as I was watching this, in this scene, I was like, okay, so that's just how it's gonna work then. Like, he gets accused, and automatically he's guilty, right? I thought it was innocent till proven guilty, but no, he gets blackballed basically. His financial situation goes down the toilet. He's kicked off the show. His financial guy quits. Like, he's in the toilet. So he goes from LA to Detroit, and we find out that the house he's trying to sell is the house from earlier. It's his house. And he does get another key to get in, so he goes in and he sees there's evidence of people staying there. But they say that they haven't been there. Like, no one stayed there for 2 weeks. But the people of our organization say this. But, like, wouldn't they be notified if they checked out? Like, if they didn't hear from them, shouldn't they have sent someone, like, oh, we don't send maids until another person's gonna check in? And it's like, okay, but that makes no sense, because you have Bill Skarsgård staying there, and this other guy is staying, and then Tess is staying there. Shouldn't there have been a maid? Shouldn't they have already noticed their mistake then? That it was double booked if they have, I don't know, unless they sent the one before Bill Skarsgård and didn't realize that they were sending it before both. I don't know. It's, yeah. He goes in, he starts to notice that there's weird things going on. Door is still open from earlier, because apparently the door locks by itself. She gets locked down there, and then Skarsgård had to come in and help her out, But, yeah. So he, this is where we get a scene. So he's on the phone with his mother, played by Brooke Dillman. So there's a couple voices here. The lady that calls him when we first meet him is actually Kate Bosworth, his current girlfriend in real life. And then Brooke Dillman, who I know from Blue Collar TV, and she had a recurring role in Kicking It, voices his mother. But the call's interrupted by someone else, and he's like, hey, what's up? And so he and his friend go hang out at this club. I believe, we don't see his face, but I believe that the guy is played by the director, Zach Kreger, who you may know from Miss March, which I reviewed last year and was very shocked that it just it just didn't hold up like I remember it. But he directed this, and this movie better, much better. But anyway, I think it's him. The shape back of his head, I think it's supposed to be him. But it's in this moment that we sort of get the idea that maybe he's not as innocent as he thinks, because the guy's like, okay, I want to know the truth. I want to know what happened. He goes, oh, okay, we fucked. Okay, this is what, and like we fucked. Okay, did she say no? And he's like, oh, at first, but it just took a little coercing, but it's not as bad as they're saying. He's like, okay, so there's something here. There's like the moral, and this scene is probably not needed, but I can see why they put it in, but because something happens later, it probably would have been a little more subtle. With this scene, outright tells you, okay, he's full of shit. He obviously did something, but you know. And there's a couple other scenes later, but you know. So he returns to the house again, noticing other things, toiletries and stuff, and then he crashes, wakes up next morning, pukes in the toilet, which I did last night because I got drunk and I drank my Trulies too fast and ended up throwing up in the toilet. But anyway, roll your eyes at me, dog. He rolled his eyes at me like, yes, I know, I was there. But anyway, so he decides to investigate because he finds the tunnel and he's like, okay, like, can I take this off? Does it help sell the house? Can I put that on there? Can I charge extra? That sort of thing. So he starts to measure it, and that's when he comes in contact with the naked woman creature, and he ends up running into a hole, which is where Tess is. And then we cut again to the 1980s in the neighborhood, which now looks brand new, except for I don't think it's the look they were trying to go for, because it looks like an obvious set. I mean, this looks like something out of a early 2000s music video where it's just very obviously fake. And I don't know if that's what they were going for or if they're trying to make it look like a neighborhood, but it looks plastic and fake. Like, in what's it called? Little Shop of Horrors. Somewhere that's green. And at the ending. The whole thing at the end. The whole house at the end. It looks like that. Like ridiculously fake. It looks very fake. Not even like a real neighborhood. But we follow Richard Brake's character, Frank. As he's doing something obviously bad as he's coming out. It's Richard Brake. So, you know, something. You know he's playing a very evil character if that's the case. But he's living in this house in the 80s, and he's going to the store, he's getting plastic sheets, he's getting, there's wet wipe stuff for babies, that sort of thing. Through the dialogue, he says that he doesn't have babies yet, but they're going to have a home delivery, and there's no midwife, he's doing it himself, there's really something going on here. And then, I should mention earlier, when AJ was going down the tunnels, he saw a VHS player, one of those TV VHS combos, playing a breastfeeding tape, and the lady gives him the tape, so we know that there's a connection there. And then we see him go home, and his neighbor says that he's moving because the neighborhood's going to go to shit, which is true. And then we cut back to them. Now, I feel like this was put in the wrong place, because it seems out of place to me at this point. I'll tell you where it should have gone in a minute. But the woman comes down, and basically she wants to be the mother to them. And so she has this nasty looking bottle with a nipple full of hair on it. Tries to get AJ to drink, he won't do it. Does the test, she drinks it, and then because he freaks out, she pulls him out of the hole, and Tess is able to escape, but the door is locked. But she was able to break the little window, which is now shut again, and get out. And this is the part of the movie that I really got frustrated. She goes to the cops. Now, earlier she tried to get the cops to help, but there was no available units. Now she goes to the cops, because she's all dirty and scraped looking, and a neighborhood that she takes them to is not a very good neighborhood. They think she's a crackhead, and they don't believe anything she says. And they take off as soon as they get another, because the place that she's told them about is not it's not her place where she's living, but she's staying there. It's just, no. I hate it when they do that in movies. Where it's like, we get the cops, but then the cops don't believe them. It's something they do so that they can explain the cops not being involved. Just don't get the cops involved. The whole line earlier would say all available units, or they can have a line like, the cops aren't going to come out here. The cops never come out here. That sort of thing. Like, even if she calls the cops, they can be like, oh, we don't go in that neighborhood. You know, that sort of thing. But have the cops come all the way out there and just to do the whole useless cop thing. You know. Because when she goes to escape, she is saved by the homeless guy from earlier named Andre. And he says, you need to get out of here because by dark, she'll come out again. You just need to get the hell out of here. She goes back and she saves AJ because he's just roaming through the halls. And this here, he finds Frank stuck to a bed, all old and decrepit. This is where they should have put it. When he walks in and sees Frank, it should have cut and showed the Frank flashback. That's where they should have put it, not earlier, because it makes no sense that they meet up in the hole and then they do that. Like, it should have been when he meets Frank. And then he's like, what? I'm going to help you or whatever. And he has his phone for a flashlight, which Wyatt has. And he called someone, say, hey, I'm stuck in on the phone. I don't know if they explain it, but, he gives Frank some water, and then he still doesn't know what Frank wants, so he pulls the whole thing over next to the bed, and he finds a whole bunch of tapes. He puts one in, and that's when he finds out what Frank has done, sexually assaulting women, and then he yells, you're crazy. What's wrong with you, basically, but which also can show into his side, like, yes, maybe he did do what they said he did, but maybe he feels kind of bad about it. Maybe this is the first time he's ever done something like that. This movie came out at a time where there's been a lot of that going around, people getting, accused of doing stuff. Most of them, it's very true, the stuff happened. I can't say for everything, but, who you are, Einstein. So, anyway, Frank takes the gun, he down there and shoots himself in the head, which made me go, okay, what was the point of him then? What was the point of him still being alive? I don't know. But AJ takes the gun and eventually meets up with Tess, who helps him escape. And then they get to Andres, who lives in this homeless part of the neighborhood. And he basically tells them what happened is that this guy, Frank, has been kidnapping women. Because in one of the flashbacks, in the flashback earlier, before going home, I forgot to mention, he sees this woman at the pharmacy, follows her to her house, pretends to be a cable person, and then goes up, unlocks the little window so he can sneak in later and abduct her. So yeah, that's how you get the sense. He's been abducting women and sexually assaulting them, and I don't like, for those of you wondering why I don't say the word, R-A-P-E word, I don't like saying that word. So sexually assault is like the worst you're going to get from me. But yeah, and he's been sexually assaulting the women, and they have kids, and then the kids grow up, and they have kids, and it resulted in the deformed, ugly, naked woman that we see, apparently. And they're like, well, what if she gets in here? And he goes, oh, I've been living here 15 years, and she ain't never gotten here. As soon as he says that, I'm like, as he was saying it, I'm like, yeah, she's going to burst through. As soon as he said it, she bursts through, kills him, and then attacks them. We get a chase to this water tower that's just right there. And this is where we get the sense that maybe AJ's not the nicest guy. They get up to the top. They see the thing is coming. He fumbles the fucking gun. Why did you give him the gun if he was going to drop it? He should have just dropped it in the tunnel and not taken the gun afterwards. What was the point of having the gun? It just made no sense. He's not going to use it. Anyway, because he fumbled a knife earlier too. Anyway, he decides the only way to get out of this is by pushing Tess over so that the mother, as they're calling her, as she's called, jumps off and kills herself and he can get away. So he does it, and when he looks over, we find that the mother drove underneath her somehow and saved her from being squashed. Basically, it's like Mama, you know. But he goes down, gets out of there's like a little thing. Why didn't they do that earlier? There's a little hole in the fence. Why didn't they do that earlier? They could have gotten out that way, but why? I don't know. Writing. Anyway, so he goes there and he sees that she's okay, and he's like, I'm sorry. I felt like I had to do it. I didn't have time to think, and I didn't even really push you, really. You just sort of slipped. You started slipping. I'm like, okay, this is where they're really hammering in that maybe his point of view of things is not always the right way you want to go. Like when he was talking to that guy at the club, like, I just took a little coercing, but I didn't do anything bad. It just, I just talked her into it, that sort of thing. That sort of thing. I don't know. But you take that scene out, and you get the scene earlier where he and Tess are talking to Andre, and he sort of confesses, like, I've done bad things and stuff like that. And, you feel bad about it, that sort of thing. But here, it's very obvious that he's a bad person and not the best person to root for, sort of thing. We get a Jeepers Creepers call back when the mother is not dead, pops up, squeezes his eyeballs into pus, and pulls his head apart, which is fucking cool kills. Better kill than the head squash earlier. Out of the 3 kills do we get in this, or 4 actually, I think that one's the best. Scar's number 2. Gunshots off screen, and I don't really remember Andre's, but yeah. But yeah, so he's dead, and so it's down to Tess and the mother. The mother wants Tess to come back, but she can't do it. She's already been shot accidentally by AJ earlier, which he does have remorse for, and that's where you get the you've done bad things, you feel bad about it, that sort of thing. But then Tess gets the gun, shoots Mother in the head, and then walks off, and that's just the end of the movie. We get no follow-up from Marcus. We get no follow-up with her movie thing, or there should have been one more scene where she talks about her experiences and the neighborhood and what the cops and people think of that neighborhood, how people were treated for living in that neighborhood. There's enough in the film to kind of suggest that there should have been something at the end, but it just ends with the song that starts out Dirty Dancing, Be My Little Baby. That's just it, but I don't know. But I do think this was actually pretty good. It would have been in the middle point of some of my horror ranking. I already did a horror ranking. This would have been like maybe 5. Maybe 5. I don't remember what my ranking was off the top of my head. I don't have the list, but I will include this when I eventually do my 2022 ranking of that year. I got some movies to watch and review yet, but So what are your thoughts on Barbarian? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.